most challenging boundary fitness professionals deal with is not the medical boundary, it's the romantic one. Fitness is a body-centric industry, and while some clients are coming to us to improve their endurance, their athletic performance, or their strength, a lot of clients that we train come to us to change the way they look. They want to see a difference in the mirror. They want people to see them differently. Sometimes it's losing body fat. Sometimes it's gaining muscle. It can be sculpting their body so they gain muscle in certain areas, tone down in others. But again, it's very body centric. And unfortunately, a lot of personal trainers make mistakes. And I think this has led to an industry-wide issue where personal trainers are seen as flirtatious. They're seen as over-sexualized. They are people that are just out to look at people in the gym. They're out to find a relationship, a physical relationship. And so in social media, on television, in film, I see it all the time where personal trainers are portrayed poorly. And I'd really like to see a change, because while the fitness industry does a good job of teaching trainers how to manage a person's fitness program, I don't think it does a good job of teaching personal trainers how to manage the relationships that they're going to have with their clients. So today we're going to cover 5 things that every trainer should be doing to prevent sexual or romantic boundaries from becoming a problem. And the first one is professionalism. Professionalism is something you use from the very beginning. Your first contact with that client, you're dressed appropriately. If you're in a gym and you wear name tags, make sure you have your name tag on. You've got the right clothing on. You've got a shirt that matches the theme of the gym. Whatever it may be, you want to present yourself as a professional, somebody that's not just coming into the gym to exercise. You have your tablet, your phone, or your clipboard, whatever you use to measure your client's progress. You want to make sure you have that. You want to be ready, on time, early, expecting the client, and then taking that client through the workout. You want to maintain this professional atmosphere because the client is putting their trust in you. You need to make sure that you provide that environment where they can feel safe talking to you about what they need to change. In some cases, they're going to be talking about their medical history. As a professional, you need to make sure you maintain confidentiality. They're going to be talking about their personal life. You want to make sure you're understanding that this information to them might be something that's very personal. They're putting themselves in a vulnerable position, and this can be both good and bad. It can open them up to sharing information that you're going to use to help them in their progress, in their transformation. However, when they're sharing that information, you have to be aware that they might also be trying to introduce you to themselves on a deeper level in the hopes that you will become attracted to them, or because they're attracted to you, they're sharing that and they want to open up that field. So again, maintaining that professionalism is going to be very important. Now, in situations, for number 2, we're going to talk about how to redirect any advances that a client makes immediately. Now, in my experience, when a client has made an advance toward me, if a client says something to me that's flirtatious or inappropriate, if you want to call it that, what I'll do is I'll deflect it. I'll either ignore it completely and pretend I didn't hear it, which is easy in a loud gym, right? If you have a loud gym, you're looking around, you can kind of pretend that you're focused on something else for a second. Hey, is that guy being safe over there? Is that lady need to spot what's happening around me? Or I couldn't hear you, the music's too loud. And this will, of course, force the client to then have to decide, do I really want to push this moment right now? Now I'm in a situation where it's now the focus of the conversation is now I have to flirt again. I have to say the same thing, and that moment has passed. So ideally, that's one way to handle it. Another way is to use humor. I've had clients that have said something to me that was inappropriate, and I'll kind of laugh it off like, oh, that's funny, and I'll just keep right on going. And my goal in that moment, at least the energy I'm trying to release, is this isn't going to happen, and I'm going to give you an out by letting you think that I think it's funny. And hopefully they get the point that, oh, he didn't take my advance seriously. I'm going to move right past that. I'm just going to keep right on going. And of course, in every instance, I'm moving them right into the next exercise. I'm bringing them back to staying focused on fitness. Now, in a few instances, I've had them kind of push the issue, and I'll say, you know what, I appreciate it, but I have to keep you focused on your goal. That's what I'm here for. You've hired me to do that. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to keep going. We're going to do push-ups. And I'll sometimes put them in situations where for a few moments at least, they're not necessarily able to interact with me. If they're doing push-ups, they're facing the ground. They really can't talk to me too much. If they're on a treadmill or a bike and they're starting to huff and puff because they're going pretty quick, they're a little winded, great. I'm giving them a few seconds to recover from that moment where I had to correct the situation or I had to reestablish that boundary, and now I'm moving them on. And in some situations, and we'll talk about this again a little later, you're going to have to sit them down and explain to them, this isn't going to work. You can't really, we have to keep this relationship very professional. So the next thing, the third thing that I'm going to recommend personal trainers do is to limit the amount of touching you're doing with your client. I've seen this 1,000 times where personal trainers are touching the client too much, just too frequently. You can just tell the client does not want to be touched, but the personal trainer is using every possible excuse to put their hands on the client. Now, the client should never really be touching the trainer, but in one instance, I remember walking past a woman who was doing walking lunges, and her trainer had his hands on her waist as if he was going to catch her if she lost her balance. And she said, and this is why I remember this so vividly, she said, "Do you have to have your hands on me for the entire session?" And he immediately backed off, and you could see he kind of played it off like he was like surprised and shocked that she would say something. But it was obvious to me, it was obvious to everybody in the gym. He had a terrible reputation. It went with him from gym to gym. The gyms suffered as a result. The trainers that were in that environment also suffered because people again saw the trainer as somebody that was over, just hypersexualized, just, looking for attention, looking for ways to touch clients inappropriately or touch them too much. And this, of course, degrades the overall quality of the trainer. So when I get my clients' measurements, I always do it consistently. I do it in a part of the gym where it's not in the center of the gym. I don't want to embarrass the client. I'm not trying to, get my client's measurements in a place where the client is going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to take my measurements from the side. I'm going to do it in an area of the gym that is secluded enough that they feel comfortable having their measurements taken, but it's clear enough to the gym that I'm not doing anything inappropriate. I'm not in a back office trying to get this person's measurements. And I stand off to the side of the client so that there's no question about me wrapping my arms around the client. I'm not trying to reach around the client from behind or the front. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll hand one end of the tape measure to the client and have them bring it around to the back of their body so that I can grab it. That way I'm not reaching around them at all. And these little tips, these little ideas that I've learned over the years have helped me establish a very stable and professional atmosphere when I'm training my clients, because everybody knows, all of my clients know, that trainer measures all of his clients from the side. He does it in that area of the gym. People can see him. They can see what he's doing. He's clearly not doing anything inappropriate. And now I have a list of clients, thousands deep, who have all been measured the same way without me making, any sexual comments, without me doing anything that looks poor, without me, giving any indication that there's anything sexual or romantic taking place. And this, of course, feels a little bit clinical, more like you're in a doctor's office, but that's what you want to create when you're with the client. You want to make them feel like you're, an expert, a professional in the industry. If you do start to have feelings about your client, you do want to be honest with yourself first. If you notice that the client is interested in you, that might be a discussion worth having with them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We run into situations all the time where we are involved with somebody at work, in our personal life, wherever we may be, and we start to notice that there's a mutual attraction. But if you have an attraction to the client, it's okay to be honest with yourself and say, I do feel an attraction to the client, and I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let this go. I'm going to say something, but you want to make sure that you do this professionally, that you sit down with the client and explain, hey, we've been working together for a while now, or a couple of days, I don't know, whatever. And I feel a level of, attraction to you. And I just want to let you know that if we need to end the relationship, we can do that. If not, maybe we could talk about ending if the client is interested, you can of course end the relationship on the business side and then begin the relationship on the personal side. And that's really number 5 here in this list, is to terminate the relationship when necessary. Again, if there's mutual attraction, I recommend that you terminate the business relationship and focus on the personal relationship. If there is a single-sided attraction, you're going to have to decide, do I want to continue to work with this person and not reveal my feelings because I'm a professional? If that person has feelings toward you, you're going to have to decide. And in certain situations, I don't think it's happened to me often, if ever, where I've had to terminate a client's relationship with me because of a romantic interest. I have had situations where I've had to terminate relationships over attachment boundaries. I had a client that would just share too much about her bodily functions. It was just way over the top, really inappropriate, just unusual conversations that she would try to have with me, and I had to terminate that relationship. But nothing sexual or romantic in that sense. And I do have another video on attachment boundaries you should check out if you're wondering what the difference is between a situation where you have this romantic or sexual attraction versus where you don't. Because in another situation, I've had clients that are attached to me. They depend on me emotionally for their progress and for their support. And so that's what you want to avoid. You want to make sure that, again, the client is safe, and that if they become too emotionally dependent on you or too romantically dependent on you, that you can stop and you can terminate that relationship. And it's very simple. You're going to have a sit-down conversation with them. It's not the easiest thing to do. The process is pretty simple. You have to sit down and say, I'm sorry. I'm going to remain calm and respectful during this time, but you have made a number of comments to me. You've tried to be flirtatious with me. I've tried to redirect several times. We've had this conversation before a couple times, and now I have to move you on to a different personal trainer. You're going to be training with somebody else at this point. And at that moment, if you work in a gym, your leadership, management, the team should support you in this and help you out as best they can. You want to refer them to another trainer whenever possible. If in my case, I want to say maybe it was one time where I had to move the client to a different trainer, and I put them with a female trainer because it seemed to me like maybe the client was going to be attracted to just about any male trainer she had, just because she was dependent on me for the emotional support that she felt she was getting. You want to keep everything simple, professional. Keep it all written down. Make sure you write everything that you're talking about with the client down, maybe after the fact. I wouldn't necessarily take notes, but you want to explain to the client that you're protecting them. There's been a lot of, you've made a lot of comments. I want to make sure that we have this business relationship, and it seems to me like it's a little difficult for you. So we're going to be moving you to a different trainer. It's very important to us that you're safe here, whether it's with the way you are exercising, the food that you're eating. We've been trying to help you, and now we need to move you to somebody where the romantic aspect won't be a distraction. This is going to protect you. All this information is going to protect the client. Of course, it's going to protect you and your reputation, your career, your business, the credibility of the gym. And in my experience, boundaries matter because it protects the client, their needs. It creates that safe environment for you and the business as well. And this is really, it's been something that in the past several years, I've seen lawsuits where gyms are paying out, hundreds of thousands of dollars for, mistakes that personal trainers made. I've seen a situation where a trainer came into the gym. He was brand new. I had never seen him before. He immediately started working on the floor. He didn't need to go through any training. He came from another sister gym where he had a sexual relationship with a client. Her husband found out. He came to the gym, demanded that guy get fired. The company decided just to move him. I think that's a mistake personally. The gym is open to liability. What do you think the guy did at the next gym? Did the same exact thing. It wasn't very long before he had a relationship with one of his clients. Again, I think you want to be honest with yourself. This can be a tricky one. And ultimately your job as a professional is to help the person become healthier, stronger, and more confident. And if you like this video, again, I've got this one on attachment that is very important. I think this is one that we often overlook as well. So take a look at that video as well. But my name's Ron Betta. I'm with Fit Pro System. I've written the book When Personal Training Gets Personal, where I talk about boundaries, medical, social, attachment, and of course this romantic one. And you can get that on Amazon. But like the video, subscribe to the page, and I'll be bringing you more videos just like this. Stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.